No one could control the billionaire's daughter until the kind florist changed everything. Before we start the story, tell us in the comments which city you are watching from. And at the end, do not forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy. The girl froze. Not her body, but something inside. Her eyes widened, fixed on something no one else could see. Her small hands trembled, and suddenly she was not really there anymore. Not truly. She was somewhere far away, lost in a memory that hurt too much to touch. Connor knelt down right away. Ellie? Ellie, sweetheart, look at me. It's all right. You're here. You're safe. But Ellie was not listening. Her eyes stayed locked on the petals scattered across the floor of the flower shop. Sunflowers, roses, daisies, as if each one was a fragment of something she had lost forever. It was always like this. A smell, a color, a scene. And suddenly, his daughter disappeared to a place he could not reach. 2 years trying. And he still had not found the way back to her. That was when the crazy florist knelt beside them. Jenna Reeves had petals in her hair, a green stain on her apron, and the look of someone who had just lost a battle against a household appliance. But none of that mattered now, because she had seen something Connor, in his desperation, failed to notice. She did not look directly at Ellie. She did not ask questions. She did not try to fix anything. She simply began picking up petals from the floor, one by one, slowly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Hey," she said softly, "did you know sunflower petals keep secrets?" Ellie did not answer, but her eyes shifted, just a little, toward the voice. "It's true. My grandmother told me when I was little. She said if you whisper a wish into a sunflower petal and keep it in your pocket, it carries the wish straight to the sun." Jenna picked up a yellow petal, big and soft. "And the sun, it is like the general manager of wishes. It receives them, reviews them, stamps them, and sends them back to Earth in the form of good days. Sometimes it takes a little while because, well, celestial paperwork, but it always delivers." She held the petal out to Ellie. "Do you want to try?" Silence. Connor held his breath. He had tried everything. Renowned therapists, specialists in childhood trauma, books with titles like Reconnecting with Your Child After Loss, techniques with complicated names that he wrote down in notebooks but could never apply well. Nothing worked. And now, a stranger covered in petals was offering a sunflower petal as if it were a winning lottery ticket for the universe. Ellie took the petal, slowly, hesitant, as if she were picking up something too precious to exist. She looked at the petal for a long moment. Then, so quietly it was almost impossible to hear, she whispered something. A wish. A secret. A word that belonged only to her and the sun, and she placed the petal in the pocket of her coat. Jenna smiled. "Perfect. Now we just wait. The sun can be a little slow sometimes. I think it keeps government hours, but it always comes through." And then it happened. The corner of Ellie's mouth lifted. Just a little. Almost invisible. Like a flower that decides to bloom after a winter that lasted too long. But it was there. A smile. Connor felt his eyes burn. He had not seen that smile in 2 years. 730 days of silence, closed doors, and hugs she would not return. And an unknown florist had done in 30 seconds what he could not do with all the love in the world. Jenna stood up, brushing her knees. "Sorry about the scenery," she said, gesturing at the floral disaster around them. "We had an incident." Connor looked around for the first time since Ellie had gone into crisis. The flower shop looked like the result of an explosion in a spring factory. Petals everywhere, an empty vase on the counter, a bucket of water spilled on the floor, and on the ceiling, spinning with the innocent face of a seasoned criminal, a ceiling fan. What happened here? Jenna crossed her arms and glared at the fan with pure resentment. Him. The fan? The windy traitor. That's his name. We have a complicated relationship. Connor blinked. You named the fan? Of course I did. Enemies deserve to be named. It is a matter of respect. She pointed at the fan like a prosecutor pointing at a defendant in court. That one spent 2 weeks pretending to be a decent appliance. 2 weeks behaving well. And then, this morning, right when I was carrying the biggest arrangement in the history of this flower shop, 3 levels tall, sunflowers, roses, that kind of ambition you know will go wrong, but you do it anyway. He decided it was time for revenge. Connor looked at the fan. The fan kept spinning, completely indifferent to the accusations. He attacked you? Attacked? He declared war. Full speed out of nowhere. Whoosh! Petals flying everywhere. I look like a walking fruit salad. And the worst part? She leaned in as if sharing a secret. He did it on purpose. I saw the intention in his eyes. Fans don't have eyes. That's exactly what he wants you to think. Connor made a strange sound, something between a cough and a laugh he was desperately trying to hold back. Jenna narrowed her eyes. Are you laughing? No. Yes, you are. It's a medical condition, facial spasm, very serious. Sure. And only in that moment, that exact moment, of course, did Jenna actually look at the customer. Tall, dark hair, brown eyes with the kind of depth that should be illegal, a jawline that looked like it had been carved by someone who took jawlines very seriously. Jenna thought, of course. Of course, the only customer of the day looks like he stepped out of a magazine, and here I am looking like a piñata that exploded. Thank you, universe. Truly, thank you. She turned to arrange some flowers on the counter, mostly to hide the fact that her face was probably turning red, and her elbow hit a cart that had been perfectly still behind her. The cart, as if it had waited its entire life for this moment, rolled 3 inches to the right and bumped into a shelf. The shelf wobbled. A vase on the top shelf shook. Jenna froze. Not the $60 vase. Not the $60 vase. The vase trembled again. No, 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 no. The vase fell. Jenna dove, literally. A dive worthy of a baseball player sliding into base. She slid across the wet floor, arms stretched out, and caught the vase 2 inches from the ground. She lifted the vase in triumph. Got it! Did you see that? Cat-like reflexes. $60 saved. And then she tried to get up. The floor was wet from the bucket that had spilled earlier. Her feet slipped. She landed hard, still holding the vase. Water from the floor soaked her entire dress. Silence. Jenna looked at the cart with pure betrayal in her eyes. I knew it, she said calmly. I knew you were working with him. She pointed at the fan. You two, in collusion, forming an alliance against me. The cart didn't answer. The fan kept spinning. Jenna nodded as if she had received a full confession. Fine, fine. You won this battle, but the war isn't over. I'll find out who's leading this conspiracy. A small sound broke the silence. A laugh. Not from Connor. From Ellie. The girl was laughing. Really laughing, a small, almost surprised sound, as if she didn't expect it to still exist inside her. Jenna looked at Ellie, then at Connor, then back at Ellie. She was still sitting on the wet floor, holding a $60 vase, petals in her hair, her apron completely ruined, and she smiled. See? At least someone appreciates quality physical comedy. Connor couldn't hold it anymore. The laugh escaped, a real one, the kind he hadn't had in a long time. And there, in the middle of the floral chaos, with a drenched florist accusing appliances of betrayal and his daughter laughing for the first time in 2 years, Connor realized something. He didn't know this woman's name. He knew nothing about her except that she clearly had unresolved issues with fans and a complicated relationship with gravity. But she had done in 5 minutes what he hadn't managed in 730 days. She had brought Ellie back, and that changed everything. Jenna stood up with as much dignity as a soaked person could have, which wasn't much, and placed the vase on the counter. So, she said, trying to sound professional while water dripped from her dress, can I help you with anything? Besides the free show, of course. That one is on the house. Connor opened his mouth to answer. But Ellie spoke first. I liked it here, she said softly. Can I come back? They were the first words she had said to a stranger in months. Jenna crouched down to meet her eyes. Sweetheart, you can come back anytime you want. In fact, I need someone to help me keep an eye on those two. She pointed to the fan and the cart. You can't trust them. I need backup. Ellie nodded seriously, as if she had just been given a life mission. I'll watch them. Perfect. You're officially my surveillance partner. Welcome to the resistance. Connor watched the scene with something growing in his chest. Something he couldn't name. Something that felt dangerously like hope. The wild florist stood up, still dripping, still covered in petals, still wearing an apron stained with green, and she smiled at him as if none of it were strange. Nice to meet you, Jenna Reeves, florist, plant tamer, and victim of harassment by household appliances. She held out her hand. Connor shook it. Connor Blake. Nice to meet you, Connor Blake. Sorry for the chaos, it's usually worse. He laughed. Worse? Oh, you haven't seen anything. Last week, the automatic watering can chased me down the whole hallway, but that's a story for another day. Connor looked at his daughter, who was still staring at Jenna with fascination, and made a decision. He didn't know what was happening there. He didn't know why this woman could make Ellie smile when no one else could. He didn't know why he himself had smiled more in the last 5 minutes than in the last 2 years. But he knew one thing. He was going back to that flower shop, even if the fan declared war again. Connor pushed open the glass door of Bloom & Breeze for the second time in less than 24 hours. Ellie walked in ahead of him as if she were coming home. Jenna was behind the counter, locked in a silent battle with a plant cart that clearly had its own opinion about directions. "You're going to the left," she whispered to the cart. "It's simple. Left. L-E-F-T. The cart stayed still, defiant. "Don't look at me like that. I know you understand." Connor cleared his throat. Jenna lifted her head so fast a strand of hair snapped across her own face. "Oh, you too? You came back." She tried to straighten herself with grace, which would have worked if both her arms weren't stuck in the straps of the rebellious cart. The movement pulled her forward. The cart finally moved, in the wrong direction. "No, not now." The cart picked up speed, dragging Jenna down the aisle like a dog pulling its leash. She tried to slow it with her feet, but the floor had just been cleaned. "Traitor!" she shouted at the cart. "You are all traitors!" The cart hit a side shelf. The shelf shook. A vase on the top wobbled dangerously. Jenna let go of the cart and dove. Not to catch the vase, to protect herself. She covered her head with her arms and crouched on the floor. The vase stopped wobbling. Silence. Jenna opened one eye, then the other. Looked up. The vase was perfectly balanced on the edge of the shelf, untouched. She stood up slowly, brushing off her knees. "That was intentional," she announced with absolute dignity. "Vase resistance test. It passed." Connor made that sound again. Half cough, half smothered laugh. Jenna narrowed her eyes. "Your medical condition is getting worse. It's chronic. See a specialist." Ellie had already walked away from them, moving through the shop with the quiet confidence of someone who had found a safe place. She stopped in front of a specific section, lavender and African daisies arranged in white ceramic pots. Jenna watched as the girl reached out and touched the petals gently, as if they were relics, as if they held memories. Connor watched too. There was something in the way he looked at his daughter. A mix of love and desperation, so intense Jenna felt as if she were intruding on a private moment. Martha appeared from the back of the shop carrying a copper watering can. She was short gray hair in a loose bun and had that presence that made you feel safe right away. She saw Ellie touching the flowers and stopped. "Your mother always chose these for the NGO events," Martha said softly as she approached. She said lavender calms and daisies give courage. Ellie froze. Connor did too. Jenna looked from one to the other, confused. Ellie turned her head slowly toward Martha, eyes wide. "You knew my mother?" Martha nodded, smiling with that gentle sadness of someone who understands loss. "I did, dear. Amelia came here every week. She always took flowers for the community gardens. She said every plant had a purpose, not just to decorate but to heal." Ellie's voice was almost a whisper. "She said that?" "She did, and she was right." Connor ran a hand through his hair, once then again. Jenna noticed that the more he did, that the messier his hair became. And the messier it got, the more human he looked. Less polished, less controlled. He didn't know about this connection. Jenna could see it in his expression, surprise mixed with something deeper. Guilt, maybe, for not knowing, for not asking. Martha placed her hand gently on Ellie's shoulder. "If you want, I can set aside some lavender for you to take home. Your mother would love to know you're caring for them." Ellie nodded, still touching the flowers, as if they were bridges to a place she could no longer reach. Connor cleared his throat, clearly trying to regain control. "Actually, I came to pick up some plants for the office." Jenna turned to him, grateful for the distraction. "Office? What kind of office? Architecture? Formal or creative? Both. Size? Large." Jenna crossed her arms, studying him with the same intensity he had used to study the flowers the day before. "You are not looking for office plants." Connor blinked. "I am. You are not." "How do you know?" "Because no one looks at a cactus like that." She pointed to the corner of the shop, where Connor had spent a full 5 minutes during his previous visit analyzing a succulent as if he were trying to decode Morse code. You looked at that plant like you were evaluating its molecular structure. No normal person does that. Connor opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I like plants. Liking is one thing. You were questioning the plant, with your eyes. Jenna picked up Sir Sprinkles, the pink spray bottle hanging from her apron belt, and murmured softly, "This one is either a botanist in disguise or a mad scientist. No normal person looks at a cactus that way." Connor heard it. "I heard that." "Good. Sir Sprinkles has strong opinions and he does not care who knows. You're talking to a spray bottle. And you're avoiding my question." A tense silence followed. Connor ran his hand through his hair again. 3 times now. His hair was officially a mess. Jenna waited. She was good at waiting. Plants taught patience. Finally, Connor let out a long breath. "All right. You're right. I didn't come to get plants for the office. I knew it. I came because Ellie asked. She couldn't stop talking about this flower shop since yesterday, and I couldn't say no." The tightness in Jenna's chest eased. Oh, so that was it. She liked it here? She smiled yesterday, for the first time in a long time. There was something in his voice, a raw vulnerability that hit Jenna like a punch. She looked at Ellie, still talking softly with Myrrh the lavender. "Then you don't need an excuse. Then you don't need an excuse. She can come here whenever she wants. Really. We always need help watching the troublemakers." She pointed to the cart which had quietly rolled to the other side of the shop. Connor smiled. That small, discreet smile he tried to hide but couldn't. "Thank you. No problem, but if you want to pretend you're buying plants, I can pretend to believe it. Good luck convincing anyone you need 12 succulents for an architecture office." 12 is a reasonable number. For a desert, maybe. He laughed. A real laugh this time. And Jenna realized she liked that sound. She liked how his eyes lit up when he laughed. She liked how he tried to be serious but failed miserably. Dangerous, she thought. Handsome men who laugh are dangerous. Especially when they look at you, as if you're the most interesting thing they've seen in years. Ellie appeared beside Jenna so quietly she almost jumped. "Jenna? Hi, sweetheart." Ellie held a lavender petal between her fingers. Her eyes were big, serious, full of a question she was trying to gather courage to ask. "Did you know my mother?" The world stopped. Jenna looked at Connor. He was frozen, waiting, as if her answer were the most important thing in the universe. Jenna knelt to Ellie's height. "No, sweetheart, I'm sorry, I didn't know her." Ellie nodded slowly, processing. "But Martha knew her." "She did, and she can tell you stories about your mother whenever you want." Do you think my mother would like me?" The question broke Jenna's heart in half. "Sweetheart, I am absolutely sure your mother loved you more than anything in the world, and she still does. Wherever she is." Ellie looked at the lavender petal in her hand. "Martha said lavender calms, and she's right. I want to take some home, to calm down. Then we'll make a beautiful arrangement for you, with lavender and everything your mother loved." Ellie finally smiled, small, hesitant, but real. And then she did something no one expected. She hugged Jenna. A quick, tight, desperate hug. As if Jenna were a lifeline in an ocean Ellie was trying not to sink in. When Ellie stepped back and went to find Martha, Jenna stayed there, on her knees in the middle of the flower shop, her heart beating too fast and her eyes burning in a way she did not expect. She stood and found Connor looking at her. There was something different in his eyes now, something intense, something that made the air between them feel charged. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do." Silence. And then Ellie shouted from the other side of the shop. "Jenna, Martha said you argue with the ceiling fan. Is that true?" Jenna sighed. "Unfortunately, yes." "Can I watch?" Connor choked, trying not to laugh. Jenna looked at him with fake indignation. "Your daughter is turning me into entertainment. She has good taste." And for the first time in a while, Jenna felt something dangerous forming in her chest. Something that felt suspiciously like hope. The question Jenna could not stop asking herself was simple. Why did Connor Blake keep coming back? She was rearranging the succulents for the 3rd time that week because apparently she rearranged plants when she was nervous. When the doorbell rang, Ellie came running in, already searching for Sir Sprinkles. Connor was right behind her, carrying 2 coffees. He did not even need to ask. He already knew she liked hers with milk and sugar. That was the problem. He was starting to know too much. "Good morning, wind trader," Ellie shouted at the ceiling, waving happily. The fan kept spinning with complete indifference. "He is ignoring you on purpose," Jenna murmured to Sir Sprinkles, hanging from her apron. "See? He does this to me every day." Connor held out the coffee to her. "Thank you." Jenna took the cup and sipped. Perfect. Of course it was perfect, because Connor Blake apparently had superpowers for memorizing random preferences of people he had known for only 3 days. "Ellie would not stop talking about wanting to see the lavender again," Connor explained, running a hand through his hair. "I hope this is not a bother." "A bother? She is my only customer who does not complain about the prices." Ellie had already settled into the lavender corner, whispering softly to the flowers as if they were old friends. She touched each petal with reverent care, telling stories only she and the plants understood. Martha appeared from the back of the shop, carrying a pot of yellow tulips. She smiled when she saw Connor and Ellie, that warm, maternal smile she saved for people she had already decided to adopt emotionally. "Oh, the Blake family is back. Ellie, dear, the seeds you asked for just arrived." Ellie lit up. "The sunflower ones?" "Exactly." Connor smiled. That small, quiet smile he thought no one noticed. But Jenna always noticed. The doorbell rang again. Jenna turned, expecting to see a regular customer. What she saw was a designer hurricane in high heels. Victoria Hale walked in as if she were stepping onto a runway in Paris, not into a neighborhood flower shop in Charleston. Perfect blonde waves, a beige dress that probably cost more than Jenna's rent, and a smile that looked carved from ice. She scanned the shop, clearly evaluating and finding everything inadequate. And then she saw Connor. "Connor, darling!" She crossed the flower shop in 3 elegant steps and kissed his cheek in a possessive way. Not a casual greeting, but the kind of kiss meant to mark territory. Connor stiffened. Victoria held onto his arm as if it were a natural extension of her own. "What are you doing in this place?" she said. Place, as if she meant sewer. A cold feeling ran down Jenna's spine. Connor Blake. That Connor Blake. The billionaire architect. The man from the design magazines Martha kept scattered around the shop. The one who had designed half the sustainable buildings on the East Coast. She looked at Connor. At the simple clothes. The unpretentious way he carried himself. The 2 coffees he had brought, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He had not told her. He had not told her anything. Connor stepped slightly away from Victoria, but she did not release his arm. "Victoria, I have been looking for you everywhere." Victoria finally noticed Jenna. Her eyes narrowed a little, then widened with fake interest. "Oh, you are the florist. How lovely." She looked Jenna up and down, from the stained apron to the worn-out sneakers. "My manicurist has an apron just like that." The air left Jenna's lungs as if someone had punched her. Martha set down the tulips with more force than necessary. Ellie looked from Victoria to Jenna, confused. Connor opened his mouth, clearly ready to step in, but Victoria continued, her smile sharp as glass. "Do not worry, dear. I am sure you are good at this." She gestured vaguely around the shop, as if describing something small and insignificant. Jenna felt her face heat up. She knew she was turning red. That humiliating shade that started at the neck and climbed all the way to the ears. She wanted to say something. Anything. But the words stuck in her throat, choked by embarrassment. Connor stepped forward, his voice low and controlled in a dangerous way. "Victoria, that was." Jenna tightened her grip on Sir Sprinkles. She did not even realize she was doing it. It was a reflex. Nerves. Her hands needed to do something before she fell apart right there. The spray went off, straight into Victoria's face. Water. Just water. Victoria froze, her mouth open in complete shock. Her makeup ran, her false eyelashes began to loosen. One of them hung from the corner of her eye like a dying caterpillar. Silence. A deadly silence. Jenna looked at Sir Sprinkles, horrified. It was an accident. He has a mind of his own." Victoria wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing the makeup even more. She looked at Jenna with a cold fury strong enough to freeze the sun. It was an accident." Jenna held Sir Sprinkles against her chest as if she were protecting a child. "I swear I didn't." "Accident?" Victoria laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. "Of course, how convenient." Connor moved between them, blocking Victoria's line of sight. Victoria, that's enough. Enough, she attacked me. It was an accident. You're defending her? I'm ending this conversation. Victoria looked from Connor to Jenna, and something cruel gleamed in her eyes. Oh, I see. She smiled. That smile of someone who has just found a weakness. How adorable. Martha crossed her arms, placing herself beside Jenna on purpose. She did not say anything, but her presence was more than clear. And then a small voice, calm and painfully clear, cut through the tension. Jenna is my friend. Everyone turned. Ellie was standing beside Jenna, holding her hand. She looked at Victoria with that unsettling calm only children can have. No fear, no hesitation, just pure truth. And Sir Sprinkles is too. Connor smiled. For the first time since Victoria walked in, he smiled for real. The kind of smile he did not try to hide, the one that lit up his whole face and made his eyes shine. Victoria noticed, and it made her even more furious. She grabbed her purse from the counter with so much force she almost knocked over a vase of daisies. This is not going to stay like this. Victoria, I'm going to tell everyone, Connor, about the project, about the partnership, about how you are wasting your time in places like this. She threw one last poisonous look at Jenna. Good luck, dear. You're going to need it. And then she left, slamming the door hard enough to make the windy trader shake. The silence that followed was heavy, dense, filled with things no one said. Jenna let go of Ellie's hand and stepped back, still holding Sir Sprinkles as if he were a shield. You're Connor Blake, she said quietly. It was not a question. Connor ran a hand through his hair. Once, twice, 3 times. I am. The billionaire. Yes, and you didn't tell me. I tried, but it never seemed like the right moment. Jenna laughed, a humorless sound. The right moment? Maybe when you first showed up, or when you brought coffee, or when your daughter started calling me her friend. Jenna, no. She raised her hand, stopping him. Just no. Martha touched her shoulder gently. Sweetheart, breathe. Jenna breathed. But it did not help. Connor stepped toward her but stopped when he saw her expression. I didn't mean to deceive you. But you did. I just wanted to be normal for a moment. Well, congratulations. You did it. And now what? Connor had no answer. Ellie tugged on his sleeve, worried. Daddy? He bent down, touching his daughter's face with tenderness. It's all right, sweetheart. Let's go home, okay? Ellie looked at Jenna, her eyes wide and scared. Is Jenna still my friend? Jenna felt her heart break. Always, sweetheart. But when Connor tried to meet her eyes, Jenna looked away. They left. The door closed softly this time, and Jenna stood there, in the middle of the flower shop, holding Sir Sprinkles and trying to understand how everything had fallen apart so fast. Martha sighed. Well, that was intense. I attacked a socialite with a spray bottle. It was self-defense. Sir Sprinkles is an accomplice now. He is on the right side of history. Jenna looked at the door where Connor and Ellie had walked out, and she realized, with a tightness in her chest, that she wanted him to come back. Even lying. Even being a billionaire. Even being everything she should avoid. She wanted him to come back. And that was the scariest part of all. Jenna stared at the empty doorway where Victoria had left. The silence in the flower shop was so heavy that even the windy trader seemed to have stopped spinning out of respect for the drama. So, she said to Sir Sprinkles, still hanging from her apron, that was subtle as a garbage truck. Martha appeared from the back of the shop, drying her hands on a towel. Sweetheart, are you all right? I'm great. I love being insulted before lunch. Really builds an appetite. The door opened again. Jenna braced herself for round 2 with Victoria, but it was Connor, alone this time. Hands in his pockets, wearing that careful expression he used when he was trying not to look nervous. There's something I need to show you, he said. If you're still willing to hear me. Jenna looked at Sir Sprinkles. What do you think? Should I trust the mysterious billionaire? Sir Sprinkles wobbled slightly on her apron. She chose to interpret that as a yes. Is that a yes? Connor asked, almost smiling. It's a, I'm going to regret this, but let's go. Martha practically pushed Jenna toward the door. Go. I'll take care of the shop. Martha, are you selling me to the first handsome man who walks in? Handsome? Connor repeated, raising an eyebrow. I said presentable. You heard wrong. Martha rolled her eyes and waved her off. Jenna sighed but followed Connor to the car. A simple sedan, she noticed. Nothing that screamed real estate empire air. Of course not, because Connor Blake apparently had a PhD in going unnoticed. Ellie was in the back seat, hugging a gardening book that looked bigger than she was. Jenna, you're gonna love it. Love what? It's a surprise, Connor said as he started the engine. Jenna crossed her arms. I dislike surprises. I know. How do you know? You make that face. What face? Connor imitated it. Furrowed brows, wrinkled nose, mouth tilted to the side. Ellie burst into laughter. Jenna pretended to be offended. I definitely do not do that. Yes, you do, Ellie confirmed cheerfully. You did it when the windy trader knocked over the daisies yesterday. Betrayed by a 7-year-old. Wonderful. My reputation is ruined. Connor smiled, that small, quiet smile that made the corners of his eyes crease just a little. They drove for 15 minutes. The city faded behind them, replaced by roads lined with old trees. The iron gate Connor stopped to open had delicate leaf designs, a bit rusty but still beautiful. The house appeared at the end of the tree-lined path. 2 stories, all white, big windows, and a wide porch that wrapped around the entire front. It looked straight out of a movie, the kind where the heroine inherits a mansion and discovers it's haunted, but in a romantic way. But it wasn't the house that took Jenna's breath. It was the garden, or what had once been a garden. Empty flower beds stretched in soft curves, as if someone had drawn on the ground with great care. A glass greenhouse, dusty and covered in cobwebs, shimmered faintly in the afternoon sun. Wild vines had claimed the broken trellises. And at the center of everything, a wooden bench with the initials AB carved into the backrest. Jenna stepped out of the car slowly, unable to look away. Amelia Blake, Connor said softly, stopping beside her. My wife. She built this entire garden with her own hands. Every bed, every path. Ellie ran to the bench and sat, tracing the initials with reverence. Mom sat here every day. She said the flowers talked to her. Jenna felt something tighten in her chest. Not pity. Pity would be insulting. Recognition. She knew abandonment when she saw it. Not the cruel kind, but the painful one. The kind that happens when something is too important to touch, because touching means admitting it's broken. It's beautiful, she said, her voice rough. It was. Connor corrected gently, looking around with an expression of longing and guilt. Now it's just forgotten. Jenna walked to the nearest flower bed. Weeds grew wild, choking whatever had been planted there. She knelt down and touched the dry soil. May I? Connor blinked. May you what? Without answering, Jenna began pulling out weeds. One by one, slowly, not trying to fix everything with empty words or impossible promises. Connor stood still for a moment, watching. Then, hesitant, he knelt beside her and started helping. Ellie joined them, pulling the smaller weeds with determined hands. They worked in silence, not an uncomfortable one, a peaceful one. The kind of silence that doesn't need filling. Until Jenna tried to open the garden's side gate to throw the weeds into the compost. The gate didn't move. She pulled again. Nothing. Listen here, you ill-tempered piece of rust, Jenna muttered, planting her feet. I've had a long day. Don't test me. The gate remained stuck, clearly unimpressed. You're? Connor began. No, I've got this. Jenna pulled harder. Let's make a deal, okay? You open, and I promise not to turn you into scrap. Connor calmly pushed the gate from the other side. It swung open smoothly, without resistance. Jenna kept staring, at the gate, at Connor, at the gate again. I knew that. I was testing you. Connor raised an eyebrow, fighting a smile. Of course. Just to see if you paid attention to details. I understood perfectly. It was a serious scientific test. You passed with honors. Ellie was laughing so hard she had to sit on the ground, holding her stomach. Jenna threw the weeds away with all the dignity she could gather. But she couldn't hide the smile. They were heading back to the garden when the sound of an engine broke the peace. A black Mercedes stopped at the entrance. Elegant, expensive, completely out of place in that abandoned garden scene. Victoria stepped out, followed by 3 impeccably dressed people. 2 men in suits and a woman in high heels who looked like she had just come from a board meeting. Connor, dear. Victoria waved as if she hadn't been practically thrown out of a flower shop hours earlier. What a lovely coincidence. Connor stiffened. Victoria, I was showing the charity board members some projects in the area. She smiled, that smile that never reached her eyes. And I thought, why not stop here? It's been so long since I last saw this property. Jenna stepped back, trying to blend in with the vines. It didn't work. Victoria noticed her immediately. "Oh, the florist? Still here. How?" Persistent. One of the board members looked at Jenna with polite curiosity. "Do you work with landscaping?" Before Jenna could answer, Victoria let out a soft, poisonous laugh. "She puts together wedding bouquets. It's charming in a rustic way. But Connor needs someone with real credentials for a project like this. Someone at his level, you know how it is." The silence that followed was so heavy Jenna could feel it on her shoulders. Her face grew warm. She looked at Connor, waiting for… what exactly? For him to agree politely? For him to stay diplomatically quiet again? Connor stepped forward. His voice was low, controlled, but there was steel in it. "Victoria, the only social circle that matters to me right now is this garden. And Jenna understands that better than any credentialed landscaper you can recommend." Victoria blinked, clearly not expecting resistance. The board members exchanged meaningful looks. Jenna felt something warm spread through her chest, something dangerous and hopeful and frightening at the same time. Connor looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that made the rest of the world fade for a moment. "She sees what I see," he continued, his voice softer now. "Not destruction, possibility." Victoria swallowed her anger with a smile that looked painful. "How? Poetic. You were always too sentimental, Connor." She turned to the board members, her tone forced and cheerful. "Well, we have other places to visit. The schedule is tight. Good luck with your gardening project, Connor." She gave Jenna one last look, a silent warning, clear as crystal, and walked back to the car. When the Mercedes disappeared down the driveway, Jenna finally let out the breath she didn't know she was holding. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. She will make your life impossible." "She already tries, it's not working." Ellie appeared beside them, holding a handful of seeds she had found in a dusty corner of the greenhouse. She looked at Jenna with those big, serious eyes that didn't match a 7-year-old. "Can you make my mom's garden come back?" Jenna knelt down so she was at Ellie's height. "I can try, but it will take time and a lot of patience." "I have patience," Ellie said, serious. "Dad doesn't." Connor ran a hand through his hair, blushing a little. Jenna smiled. "Then we'll have to teach him." Ellie held out her hand full of seeds. "Can we start now?" Jenna looked at Connor. He was watching the two of them with an expression she couldn't fully read. Something between hope and fear, longing and relief. "We can," Jenna said softly. And there, in the middle of an abandoned garden, with dirt under her nails and the sun beginning to set behind the old trees, Jenna Reeves did something she had sworn she would never do again. She started to believe in new beginnings. Connor knelt beside them, taking some seeds from Ellie's hand. His fingers brushed Jenna's for a second, brief, accidental, but enough to make her heart race in an inconvenient way. "So," he said, his voice low, "where do we start?" Jenna looked around. The whole garden needed help. But there was something about the way the afternoon light touched that bench with the carved initials, something in the way Ellie held those seeds as if they were treasures. "From the beginning," she answered. "Always from the beginning." Ellie smiled, a wide, genuine smile that lit up the whole garden more than the sun ever could. And Jenna realized, with a mix of fear and excitement, that she had just agreed to spend much more time with Connor Blake. This was going to be a problem, a big, complicated, and probably disastrous problem. But as the three of them began preparing the soil for the first seeds, Jenna found she didn't mind as much as she should have. Jenna was still processing the house, the abandoned garden, the dusty greenhouse, the vulnerable look on Connor's face when he said it had been Amelia's favorite place when Martha called. "So?" Martha's cheerful voice echoed through the phone. "How was it?" Jenna looked at her hands, still with dirt under her nails. "Complicated." "Complicated good or complicated bad?" "I'm still deciding." But 3 days later, while working on her knees in that same garden, Jenna had to admit it was complicated good. The garden had changed. Not much. There were only shy sprouts pushing through the dry soil. But they were sprouts. Life where there had only been neglect. Jenna and Ellie had settled into a routine. After Jenna finished work at the flower shop, she came here. Ellie showed her where her mother had planted everything. Connor watched from a distance, fixing his hair whenever Jenna looked in his direction. It was pleasant, dangerously pleasant. And then she heard his voice behind her. I need to ask you a favor. Jenna looked up, shielding her face from the sun. He was wearing a suit, perfect gray, tie perfectly straight. Oh no. What kind of favor? She asked, wary. There's a charity dinner tonight. Annual gala, Victoria's hosting. Jenna stood so fast she almost tripped over her boots. Oh, then definitely no. Jenna, Connor, I work with flowers. I do not go to galas, especially not ones organized by the woman who tried to ruin me with fake Yelp reviews. She did that? 3 times. One of them said my lilies smelled like despair. Lilies don't even have a strong smell. Ellie came running from the greenhouse holding a watering can almost bigger than she was. You're gonna look beautiful, Jenna. Ellie, sweetheart, I'm not going. Please? Ellie pressed her hands together dramatically. My dad gets bored at those parties. He needs someone nice. Connor ran a hand through his hair. Once, twice. I did not exactly say that. He thought it out loud last night. Jenna looked between father and daughter. Connor looked genuinely uncomfortable. Ellie looked genuinely hopeful. Ellie, it's going to be pretty. There are flowers. You like flowers. How do you say no to a 7-year-old using your own profession as an argument? Jenna took a deep breath. Wish me luck. Is that a yes? Connor asked, surprised. It's an I will regret this, but I can't disappoint Ellie. Ellie jumped, celebrating with the watering can still in her hands, soaking Connor's shoe in the process. Oops. Connor looked at his drenched shoe, then at his daughter, and smiled. That small smile that made Jenna's stomach do strange things. Thank you, he said, looking at Jenna. Don't thank me yet. I'm gonna trip on something. It's statistically inevitable. I'll catch you. Promise? Something shifted in the air. Connor held her gaze for a moment far too long to be casual. I promise. 6 hours later, Jenna was in the room. Martha insisted on calling the emergency transformation suite, also known as the guest room above the flower shop. I look ridiculous, Jenna said, staring at the mirror. You look stunning, Martha corrected, adjusting the navy blue dress that had miraculously appeared in the closet. How did you get this dress? I have connections. Martha, don't ask questions with answers that will make you nervous. Jenna studied her reflection. The dress was simple but elegant. No excessive sparkle, no frills, just fabric that fell perfectly, making her look different. More grown-up, less woman who argues with ceiling fans. If I trip, Jenna murmured, I'll pretend it's contemporary dance. Martha laughed, smoothing her hair. That's my girl? Connor arrived right at 7. When Jenna came down the stairs, he froze mid-sentence. She stopped on the last step. Is it terrible? No. His voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. You look beautiful. Jenna felt her face warm. You don't have to. I know, but it's true. Martha practically pushed them out the door. Go. Have fun. Don't do anything I would do, which thinking about it is quite a lot. In the car, Jenna fiddled with her handmade bracelet, which immediately got caught on the seatbelt. Oh no, not again. Connor patiently loosened it. Thank you. Always. They drove in comfortable silence until they reached the hotel where the gala was being held. Golden lights covered the front of the building. Impeccably dressed guests walked up the staircase. Expensive cars lined the entrance. Jenna took a deep breath. Okay, I can do this. You can. It's just a dinner. Exactly. With wealthy people who will probably judge me. Jenna? And Victoria. Good luck to us. She laughed, even with the nerves. Connor got out, walked around, and opened the door for her. He offered his hand. Jenna took it, trying not to think about how warm and steady his hand felt. They walked in together. The ballroom looked exactly like Jenna imagined. Everything sparkled. Crystal chandeliers, tables decorated with elaborate floral arrangements, which she noticed critically were already wilting at the edges. People in designer dresses and tuxedos chatting in elegant little groups. And in the center of it all stood Victoria Hale, in a deep red gown, smiling like a queen receiving her subjects, until she saw Connor and Jenna. The smile faltered, only for a second. But Jenna saw it. Connor, darling. Victoria walked toward them, completely ignoring Jenna. I'm so glad you came, and you brought company. Jenna is my date, Connor said, polite but firm. How lovely. Victoria looked Jenna up and down. I love the dress. Vintage? No, just old. Martha would have been proud. Victoria laughed, that artificial sound that made Jenna want to look for Sir Sprinkles for moral support. Well, enjoy the evening. Dinner will be served soon. She walked away, but Jenna caught the look she threw at two men near the entrance, Brooks and Carter, the same ones who were with her at the flower shop. "This is not going to end well," Jenna whispered. "What?" "Nothing, just a feeling." They found their table. Jenna tried to relax. The food was good. The conversation was tolerable. Connor introduced her to a few people, all polite, some genuinely interested in floristry. Then came Victoria's speech. She stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, perfect smile in place. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for supporting our charity event. Tonight is about community, generosity, and—" Jenna did not hear the rest, because Brooks and Carter were carrying a large box, walking straight toward her, and the box was tilting. "Connor!" The box fell. Green floral foam exploded, covering Jenna from head to toe. Silence, complete silence. Every eye in the ballroom turned to her. Jenna stood frozen, dripping green foam, with pieces stuck to her hair, her dress, her shoulders. Brooks and Carter looked horrified. "Sorry, it was an accident." Soft giggles started spreading around the room. Jenna felt her face burn. Not from embarrassment, well, a little, but mostly from anger. Because she knew. She knew it had not been an accident. Victoria stood on the stage, mouth open in shock. But Jenna saw the satisfied gleam in her eyes. And then Jenna started laughing. Not a nervous laugh. A real one. Bright, loud, unstoppable. She pulled a piece of foam from her hair and held it up. "At least it matches my work apron." The room hesitated. Then someone laughed. Then another, and another. Suddenly the entire ballroom was laughing with her, not at her. Victoria stepped off the stage, forced smile in place. "What a terrible situation. Let me help." "No need," Jenna said, still laughing. "I've handled worse. One time a bouquet of roses attacked me. Long story involving bees." More laughter. Victoria pressed her lips together. And then, in that sweet, poisonous voice, "Oh dear, you're that florist, aren't you? The one from the video? The one who spilled the arrangement on the mayor of New York?" The ballroom went quiet again. Jenna felt the floor disappear under her feet. Connor stood, slow, deliberate. "Victoria?" His voice was pure ice. "Enough." "Connor, I was only—" "Enough." He turned to the room, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "The only person who should be ashamed here is the one who planned this. Jenna Reeves is worth more than anyone in this ballroom, including me." He held out his hand to Jenna. "Let's go." Jenna took his hand, still covered in foam, and they walked out together. The room erupted in murmurs. Victoria stood alone on the stage, smile finally gone. In the car, Jenna looked out the window, trying to process everything. "You saw the video?" she asked quietly. Connor did not hesitate. "I did, and I laughed until I cried. You hit the mayor right on his shiny bald head." Jenna turned to him, surprised. Then she started laughing. And laughing, and laughing until tears came. Connor laughed with her. And there in the car, covered in green foam, Jenna realized something unsettling. Maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who actually liked the chaos she was. Connor parked in front of the flower shop. He turned off the engine, but neither of them moved. "Thank you," Jenna said, "for all that, for defending me. Always." That word again. Always. As if it were a promise. Connor turned to her, and there was something different in his eyes. Something intense. He opened his mouth to speak. His phone rang. "Ellie, video call," Connor answered. "Is everything all right?" "Dad," Ellie's voice sounded excited. "The babysitter showed me. You and Jenna are on every gossip site. You're famous." Jenna and Connor exchanged a panicked look. "What?" they said at the same time. Jenna was still laughing at Connor's expression when he left the flower shop, that small smile he tried to hide, when Sir Sprinkles decided it was time to fall off the counter. Again. "Really?" she asked the spray bottle, picking it up from the floor. "Do you have a balance problem, or do you just enjoy drama?" Sir Sprinkles did not answer. Shocking. Jenna set him back on the counter and returned to the donation box Martha had asked her to sort. Cracked vases, faded ribbons, a candle that smelled like broken dreams, or maybe expired lavender. Then her fingers touched paper, not just paper, a thick envelope, yellowed with time, with delicate handwriting in blue ink. Amelia Blake. Jenna's heart jumped. She pulled the envelope out slowly, as if it might disappear. But it didn't. And there was more. Letters tied with thin twine, all with the same name. Amelia Blake. Connor's wife, Ellie's mother. "Martha?" Jenna called, but the flower shop was empty. Martha had left for a delivery 20 minutes earlier. The windy trader spun above her, making the letters flutter inside the box. "Do not even think about blowing that." She pointed at the fan. "I'm warning you." It kept spinning, clearly planning its next betrayal. Jenna looked at Sir Sprinkles. "What do I do?" Silence. "Great. Very helpful. Thank you for your contribution." She grabbed her phone and dialed Connor's number before she could change her mind. 25 minutes later, Connor was sitting at Martha's kitchen table, looking at the letters as if they were sacred relics. "Martha kept this?" he asked, his voice so low Jenna almost didn't hear it. "It was in the donation box." "I think she forgot," Jenna said as she sat across from him, hands clasped in her lap. "I didn't read them. I just saw the name and stopped." Connor ran a hand through his hair. Once, twice, 3 times. Jenna started counting in her head. He was in processing complex emotions mode. He picked up the first letter, opened it slowly as if afraid to tear it, began reading silently. Jenna watched his face change, tension around the eyes, pain in the line of his jaw, something that looked like longing mixed with regret. He picked up another and another. Then he reached one that made him stop completely. His eyes followed the lines. Once, twice. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath. "Connor?" He didn't answer. He simply stood up, left the letter on the table, and walked out of the kitchen. Jenna heard the back door close. She looked at the open letter, trying not to read it. Failing miserably. "If anything happens to me, take care of the garden. But more important, do not let Ellie forget that flowers are just excuses to spread color in the world." Jenna's chest tightened as if someone had pulled a knot right in the middle. She gathered the letters carefully, placing them back into the box. Except one that said, "For Ellie when she grows up," on the front, written in even more graceful handwriting. Jenna found Ellie in the garden, sitting near the lavender shoots that had begun to appear in the last few days. "Hi, Jenna." Ellie waved, smiling. Then she saw her expression. "What happened? You look like you saw a ghost. Or worse, did the windy trader finally win?" Jenna let out a weak laugh and sat beside her on the grass. "I found something that belonged to your mother." Ellie went still. "What?" "Letters. She wrote them for Martha, planning the gardens, and—" Jenna held the special envelope. "One for you." Ellie's eyes widened. "My mom wrote to me? Do you want me to read it?" Ellie nodded, biting her lower lip. Jenna opened the envelope carefully, as if it were made of glass. The handwriting was delicate, full of loops and curves that seemed to dance on the paper. "My dear Ellie, if you are reading this, you are probably old enough to understand that flowers are not just pretty, they are brave. They push through the earth, face the cold, and bloom even when no one is watching. You are my favorite flower, not because you are perfect, but because you are you. You do not need the sun. You are the sun. Never let anyone dim your light, my love. Always yours, Mommy." Jenna's voice trembled on the last words. Ellie blinked once, twice, then the tears came, silent and heavy, running down her cheeks like summer rain. Jenna pulled the girl into a hug. Ellie held on tight, crying against her shoulder, and Jenna felt her own tears fall, soaking the girl's blonde hair. They stayed like that for an undefined amount of time, surrounded by fallen petals and old letters, while the wind carried the scent of damp earth and new beginnings. When Ellie finally pulled back, wiping her face with the back of her hand, she asked in a rough voice, "Can I keep the letter?" "Of course. It was always yours." Ellie held the paper as if it were the greatest treasure in the world. "Thank you, Jenna. Always." They sat in a warm, quiet silence until Ellie pointed to an abandoned shrub near the fence. "Can we fix that one? It looks sad." Jenna looked at the shrub. It was wild, branches shooting in every direction as if it had given up on following any rules. "We can try. But I should warn you, my track record with pruning is questionable." 15 minutes later, Jenna was holding the pink pruning shears while Ellie held the branches. "Cut here," Ellie said, pointing to a particularly rebellious branch. Jenna cut. "Now that one." She cut again. A little more. She cut too much. They both stopped, staring at the result in heavy silence. The shrub looked unique, asymmetrically unique, like it had survived a war and lost. "It looks like a bulb broccoli," Ellie said, completely serious. Jenna let out a laugh that turned into full-on laughter. "Abstract art, botanical avant-garde. No one understands geniuses. Do you think it will grow back?" "I sincerely hope so," Otherwise, we'll have to call it modern sculpture and pretend it was intentional." Ellie laughed. That light, genuine sound Jenna was beginning to love more than she wanted to admit. Connor appeared at the back door. His eyes were red, but his face looked calmer, less tense. "What happened to the shrub?" he asked, looking at the victim of the scissors. "Art," Jenna and Ellie said at the same time. Connor looked at both of them, then at the bald broccoli, and finally smiled. Small but real. "Of course. Art." He walked closer, looking at the letter Ellie held against her chest. "Did you read it?" Ellie nodded. "Mom said I'm the son." Connor knelt beside her, his eyes shining. She was absolutely right. Ellie threw her arms around him, and Connor held her as if she were the most precious thing in the universe. Jenna started to step back to give them space, but Ellie reached out a hand. "Jenna, stay." She hesitated. Connor looked at her over Ellie's head and nodded. Jenna sat on the grass beside them, feeling something strange and warm spread in her chest. Ellie held her hand with one hand and Connor's with the other. "Will you be my flower friend forever?" Ellie asked, looking at Jenna with eyes still wet. Jenna felt something break and rebuild inside her at the same time. Forever. Connor squeezed Ellie's hand. His eyes met Jenna's over the girl's head. There was something there. Gratitude, hope, and something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. But it was there. Tangible as the smell of damp earth. And as the sun set over Charleston, painting the sky in pink and orange, 3 people sitting on the grass around a bald broccoli found something none of them expected. Family. Not perfect, not traditional, definitely not symmetrical like that unfortunate shrub, but real. Jenna was putting away the gardening tools when her phone buzzed. Message from Martha. "Did you see the news? That video of you went viral again. Victoria Hale gave an interview saying you're exactly the kind of person Charleston does not need. She's planning something. Be careful." Jenna looked at Connor and Ellie still sitting in the garden, laughing at something she hadn't heard. "Good luck to me," she murmured. Because if Victoria Hale was planning something, Jenna was sure it wouldn't be anything good. Jenna wasn't sure what to expect when Connor finally came back inside. She had stayed there alone, looking at the letter he had left on the table. She didn't read it. It wasn't hers to read, but she saw enough to know it was about Ellie. And about flowers. When he returned, his eyes were red. "Sorry," he said, his voice rough. "I just needed a minute." "You don't have to apologize." He sat again, picking up the letter carefully. Amelia wrote this 3 months before she left. It's a list of flowers she wanted to plant with Ellie when she grew up. He ran his finger over the words. She knew she wouldn't be here, and she still made plans. Jenna felt her throat tighten. "Connor, thank you," he said, looking at her, "for giving me this, for not throwing it away. I would never do that." He held her hand for a moment, just that. But it was enough to make Jenna's heart race. "I have to go," he said finally. "Ellie is with the babysitter, but thank you. Truly." And then he left, taking the letters with him. Jenna stayed there, looking at the empty table, and realized she was completely in love with a man who still loved the wife he had lost. "Good luck to me," she murmured. 3 days later, the community garden looked like an organized beehive. White tents, volunteers in orange vests, TV cameras, and Jenna in the middle of everything, holding a hose that definitely had its own personality. This is going to work, she told herself, looking at the irrigation system Connor had installed the night before. It should have been simple. Turn the valve. Water comes out. Happy plants. End of story. Except that when Jenna turned the valve, the hose came to life. It whipped to the side, hitting a volunteer in the stomach. He fell back with a surprised, "Oof." "Sorry," Jenna shouted, trying to hold the hose. "It's possessed." The hose twisted, spraying water in every direction. Jenna grabbed the end with both hands, but the pressure was brutal. "Stop," I said. The hose turned straight toward her face. Not the face. Too late. A jet of water hit her right in the eyes. Jenna stumbled back, spitting water, hair plastered to her face. Connor came running. "Let me." He grabbed the hose. It immediately turned and hit him in the chest, soaking his blue shirt. What? Connor tried to control the aquatic creature, but it had other plans. Jenna and Connor wrestled with the hose for a full minute, slipping in the mud, shouting contradictory instructions, while volunteers watched with expressions somewhere between horror and amusement. "Turn it to the left," Jenna shouted. I am turning it to the left. The other left. There is only one left. Finally, Connor managed to close the main valve. The hose stopped with a pathetic sigh. Silence. Jenna and Connor stood in the middle of the garden, now a swamp, dripping water, covered in mud. Someone started clapping. Another laughed. Soon the whole garden was laughing. Jenna looked at Connor, he looked at her, and they burst into laughter. That was terrible, Connor finished, still laughing. Absolutely terrible. I told you it was possessed. You were right. Martha appeared with towels, shaking her head. You two look like drowned rats. Charming drowned rats, Jenna corrected, wringing water from her hair. Connor took a towel, drying his face. His eyes were shining in that way that made Jenna's stomach flip. I'll check the system, he said. Someone messed with the connections. Jenna frowned. Sabotage? Sabotage. An hour later, Connor had identified the problem. 3 loose connections, valves swapped, and the pressure regulator set to maximum. Someone knew what they were doing, he said, showing the parts to Jenna. She was holding Sir Sprinkles, who had survived the hose attack only because he was inside her bag. Who would do this? She asked the spray bottle. Sir Sprinkles, as always, remained neutral. Victoria, Connor said, his voice tense. Or someone working for her. Are you sure? I can't prove it, but I know. Jenna hugged Sir Sprinkles against her chest. What do we do? Connor ran a hand through his hair. Once, twice, we keep going, and we make it perfect. They worked the rest of the day like a synchronized team. Connor drew the beds. Jenna turned the drawings into life. He measured spaces. She planted with perfect precision. When he needed a tool, Jenna was already handing it to him. It felt natural, fluid, as if they had done it 1,000 times before. Martha watched from afar, sitting on a bench with Romeo on her lap. Amelia sent this girl, she murmured to the cat. I'm sure of it. Romeo purred in agreement. At 3 in the afternoon, a white van stopped at the garden entrance. Journalists got out, cameras in hand, and behind them, Victoria Hale, wearing a spotless white suit and a predator's smile. Good luck to us, Jenna murmured. Victoria walked straight to the cameras, ignoring Jenna and Connor completely. It's a tragedy, she said, her voice full of false concern. Such an important project harmed by technical incompetence. Jenna felt anger boil, but before she could say anything, Connor stepped forward. Actually, he said, his voice calm but firm, it was intentional sabotage. 3 connections were deliberately loosened, and the regulator was adjusted to cause a catastrophic failure. Victoria blinked. Sabotage? That's a serious accusation, Connor. A serious fact, he corrected. I have the parts. I can show them to any engineer. A journalist stepped forward. Are you saying someone tried to sabotage the project? I'm saying someone tried to make it look like my team was incompetent. It didn't work. Victoria pressed her lips together. Well, I hope you have evidence. I do. Connor pulled out his phone, showing photos of the connections, and video of the original installation, showing everything was correct last night. Victoria's face tightened, but she kept the smile. How nice that you're so thorough. I learned from the best. The journalists began shouting more questions, but Victoria was already retreating to the van. Brooks, Carter, let's go. They left quickly, a cloud of tension hanging in the air. Jenna let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. You're amazing, she said to Connor. He turned to her, his expression softening. I'm not, but I have a good partner. Jenna's heart did that ridiculous thing again. By the end of the day, the garden was starting to take shape. Organized beds, defined paths, seedlings planted in perfect rows. Jenna and Connor were sitting on the grass, exhausted, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. Thank you, Connor said suddenly. For what? For trusting me, for staying. He hesitated. For being here. Jenna looked at him. There was something vulnerable in his expression, something she hadn't seen before. Do you trust me? She asked softly. Connor held her gaze. More than anyone. Jenna's chest tightened. She didn't know what to say, so she just stayed there beside him while the world grew quiet around them. Connor leaned a little closer. You know you have algae in your hair, right? Jenna blinked. She reached up and, yes, pulled out a small green strand. It's an accessory. Sustainable. Connor laughed. That low, genuine sound she was starting to love. And as he laughed, looking at her with eyes that seemed to see through every one of her defenses, Connor realized something frightening. He was completely lost for her. and he didn't want to be found. Martha appeared with a basket. I brought sandwiches and lemonade. You two look like you survived a war. War against a possessed hose, Jenna said. Technically, it was a tie. Connor took a sandwich. Thank you, Martha. You're welcome, dear. Martha looked between them, a knowing smile on her lips. I'll let you eat in peace. She walked away, and Jenna took a bite of the sandwich. She definitely thinks something is happening here. Is there? Connor asked, his voice far too casual. Jenna almost choked. What? He smiled. Nothing. Forget it. But Jenna's heart was racing, and she was sure Connor could hear it. They ate in comfortable silence until Connor picked up his phone and frowned. What is it? Jenna asked. A message from an unknown number. He showed her the screen. Enjoy it while it lasts. Everyone has secrets. A chill ran down Jenna's spine. Who would send that? Connor put the phone away, his jaw tight. Someone trying to scare us. It's working. He looked at her, serious. Do you have something you need to tell me? Jenna's stomach dropped. She thought of New York, the boss who accused her of stealing, running away instead of fighting. No, she lied. Do you? Connor hesitated. For a moment she thought he would say something, but then he shook his head. No, and they both knew they were lying. Jenna was still smiling, soaked, covered in mud but smiling, when her phone buzzed in her pocket. Once, 3 times, 7, 15. Connor noticed first. Are you vibrating? It's the phone. She pulled it out, leaving a muddy streak across the screen. Probably Martha sending memes about. Her smile froze. Message after message, all with the same link. She clicked with trembling fingers. The fraudulent florist behind the community project. The photo was of her, from the video, the arrangement falling, the mayor covered in petals, and below in red letters, sources reveal a history of theft and fleeing from justice. The phone slipped from Jenna's hand and fell into the wet grass. Connor frowned. Jenna? But she was already backing away, water dripping from her hair, mixing with something that definitely wasn't hose water running down her face. I need to go. And she ran before he could say anything. Martha found her 20 minutes later, sitting behind the flower shop, holding Sir Sprinkles as if he were a stuffed animal. I saw the article, Martha said, sitting beside her on the concrete floor. It's a lie. Not all of it. Jenna wiped her nose with her sleeve, still damp from her battle with the hose. I did drop the arrangement. I did run away from New York. That part is true. But you did not steal anything. No, but my boss did, and she blamed me. Jenna let out a humorless laugh. I had the proof, photos of her taking money from the safe, but when I went to show the owner, she had already erased everything and planted evidence in my drawer. So I left. I ran, like a coward. Martha held her hand. You were young, you were scared. That does not make you a coward. It does. And now I'm ruining everything again. The project, Connor. Ellie. Jenna's voice broke. They do not deserve this. Jenna, I need to tell him, before he hears it on the news. Connor was in the community garden, trying to save a seedling that had been hit by the hose flood when Jenna arrived. He smiled when he saw her, but the smile disappeared when he noticed her expression. What happened? Jenna handed him her phone. You need to see this. He read it. His face grew serious but not surprised. Victoria, he said, handing the phone back. Connor, I should have told you, about New York, about everything, but I did not steal anything, I swear. I know. He took a step toward her. I believe you. Jenna shook her head and stepped back. You do not understand. This will destroy the project. People will question your decision. They will say you hired a criminal, your reputation. I do not care. But you should. Jenna's voice rose. You have Ellie. You have a life. I am the girl who drops arrangements and argues with ceiling fans and ruins everything she touches. Connor held her shoulders. You did not ruin anything. You fixed things. You fixed me. Ellie deserves better. Jenna stepped away, wiping her eyes. You both do. Jenna, I am leaving. Silence. Connor stood frozen, as if his mind had stalled. What? I am leaving the project? I am leaving Charleston. It's better this way. No. His voice was rough. No, it is not. It is running away. Jenna flinched like he had slapped her. You cannot run every time things get hard, Connor continued, and now there was something desperate in his voice. You cannot give up on us. I am not giving up. I am protecting you. That is not true. He ran his hand through his hair. Once, twice, 3 times. You are protecting yourself, because running is easier than fighting. The words cut deep, because they were true. Jenna turned away. Good luck with the project, and she left. The delivery truck was parked in front of the flower shop. Jenna pulled the door handle. Locked. She pulled again. Nothing. Open, she whispered, tears falling. Please, just open. The handle refused. Jenna fought with it for 30 endless seconds, crying and laughing at the same time, because of course even the truck was against her. You too now? She asked the door. Really? You, truck? I thought we were friends. The truck did not answer. Because it was a truck. Finally the door gave way. She climbed in, started the engine, and drove off without looking back. Connor stood in the garden for a full 5 minutes, just standing there, staring at the spot where Jenna had disappeared. Martha walked up. Are you going to let her go? She chose to go. She chose to run. That is different. Martha crossed her arms. And you are going to let her? Connor did not answer, because he did not know the answer. Ellie was drawing sunflowers in the kitchen when Connor got home. She looked up and smiled. Where's Jenna? Connor sat beside her. She had to leave. Ellie's smile faded. Leave where? I don't know. Is she coming back? Connor swallowed. I don't know. Ellie was quiet. Then, slowly, she took a dried sunflower petal that had been tucked inside her drawing notebook. The same one Jenna had given her in the garden. Mom said sunflowers bring luck, Ellie whispered, tears starting to fall. She said if you make a wish on a petal, it comes true. She held out the petal to Connor with trembling hands. Make the wish for Jenna to come back. Connor took the petal. So small, so fragile, like hope. He pulled Ellie into a hug, feeling her shake against him. And for the first time in 2 years, Connor Blake had no idea what to do. Because his architecture was buildings, solid structures, things that could be planned and built. But broken hearts did not come with blueprints, and he had no idea how to rebuild his, or Ellie's, or Jenna's. Jenna needed an answer, and fast. Do you think I should go back? She asked the fern hanging in the window. Because I don't know. I don't know if I can face Connor again, or Martha, or Ellie. The fern swayed lightly with the breeze. Great, you don't know either. Jenna sighed, watering the plant with obsessive precision. Very helpful. That was when the apartment door opened without knocking. Martha walked in like a hurricane, Romeo in her arms. Knocking is overrated. Jenna didn't even turn around. She kept watering. I came to return your key. It's on the table. I don't want the key. I want you back. Martha? Amelia ran away 3 times before she started the nonprofit. Martha dropped onto the faded couch, setting Romeo down. Did you know that? Jenna finally turned, spray bottle still in hand. What? 3 times. First, she left her biology degree because she thought she wasn't smart enough. Second, she quit an internship at a botanical garden after killing an entire bed of rare orchids. Third, Martha paused dramatically. The third was 3 months before she met Connor. She had started a small community project. Someone sabotaged it. She ran to Atlanta. Jenna squeezed her sprinkles. How did she come back? A friend went there and said, gardens don't grow when we run away. They grow when we come back and try again. Martha stood up. That friend was me, and now I'm saying the same thing to you. It's different. Amelia didn't have a past that followed her on the internet. No, she had a bed of orchids that cost $50,000. Martha crossed her arms. Everyone has a viral moment, sweetheart. Hers just wasn't on YouTube. Jenna looked at Sir Sprinkles sitting on the windowsill. What do you think? Sir Sprinkles didn't answer, because he was a spray bottle. But Romeo meowed, loud, insistent. Even the cat agrees with me, Martha said. Jenna let out a wet laugh, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. Good luck convincing Sir Sprinkles. Martha took the spray bottle and placed it in Jenna's hand. Then bring him with you, and come back. Meanwhile, Victoria Hale was in a fancy restaurant downtown Charleston, raising a glass of champagne. Brooks and Carter sat across from her, uncomfortable in poorly fitted suits. Finally, Victoria smiled, taking a sip. The florist is out of the way. Now we just wait for Connor to realize I have always been the right choice. Brooks exchanged a look with Carter. So, do we still need to sabotage the festival? Victoria set her glass down hard. Of course we do. But if the florist is gone, why? Because I want to. Victoria took a long breath, regaining her smile. I want it to be a disaster. I want Connor to realize he cannot trust anyone, except me. Carter fidgeted with his napkin. And if he finds out it was us? He won't, because you two are going to be smart this time. Victoria leaned forward. Right? Brooks swallowed. Right. Good, now leave. I have a meeting with the board tomorrow. The two men left quickly, leaving Victoria alone with her glass and her plans. The next day, the community garden was quiet, still, as if it were holding its breath. Connor arrived early, carrying tools and a tired expression. He hadn't slept. He couldn't stop thinking about Jenna, about the way she left, about the way he let her. He set the tools down and looked around. So much work, so much progress. And now it felt empty. That was when he heard it. Are you going to help or are you retiring? Connor turned quickly. Jenna was standing in the middle of the garden, holding a rake and pointing it at him like a sword. She was wearing a stained apron, hair tied up with a pencil, and her sprinkles tucked in her pocket. Jenna? His voice came out rough. She lowered the rake. Hi. Connor took one step toward her, then another. You came back. I did. She bit her lip. I'm sorry for running, for being a coward. Connor pulled her into a hug before she could finish. Firm. Tight. As if he were holding something precious he almost lost. Jenna stiffened for a second, then melted into him, burying her face in his shoulder. Don't run again, Connor whispered into her hair. I can't promise that. Jenna pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. But I promise to always come back. Connor cupped her face with both hands. That's enough. They stayed like that for a moment, just looking, breathing. Then Jenna broke the silence. I brought reinforcements. Connor blinked. What? Jenna pointed to the entrance. Martha was there, waving, and behind her a line of volunteers. 10, 20, 30 people, all carrying tools, seedlings, buckets. The whole town saw the article, Martha shouted, and the whole town decided Victoria Hale can go plant roses somewhere else. The volunteers began spreading out through the garden, organizing themselves into groups. Someone turned on a radio. Music started playing. Connor looked around, stunned. How did you? It wasn't me, it was Martha and Ellie. Jenna smiled. She made posters. She handed them out at the whole school. They said, help bring Jenna back. Connor felt his chest tighten. She did that? She did. Because she's amazing, just like her father. Connor ran a hand through his hair, once, twice, 3 times, trying to process it, trying not to cry in front of 30 volunteers. Jenna touched his arm. Good luck holding back the tears. Connor laughed, that low, genuine sound she loved. I won't make it, will I? Not a chance. They worked the rest of the day side by side, Jenna leading the tools, Connor drawing the final details. Volunteers planting, digging, building. And for the first time since Amelia passed, the garden felt alive again. By late afternoon, Ellie came running, her backpack bouncing behind her. She stopped in front of Jenna, breathless. You came back, Jenna knelt. I did. I'm sorry I left. Ellie hugged her, tight. You won't go again? I will, sometimes. Jenna held her shoulders. But I always come back, I promise. Ellie opened her backpack and pulled something out. The sunflower petal, crushed, dry, but still whole. It worked, Ellie whispered. The wish worked. Jenna felt her eyes sting. It did. Connor watched from a distance, smiling. Martha came up beside him. Are you going to tell her? Martha asked quietly. Tell her what? Who you are? The money? Everything. Connor stayed silent. I don't know. I'm afraid it will change things. It will, but not the way you think. Martha gave his shoulder a soft pat. Secrets have an expiration date, Connor, and yours is about to expire. She walked away, leaving Connor alone with that thought. And as he watched Jenna laughing with Ellie, surrounded by flowers and volunteers in life, Connor realized something. He was in love. Completely. Irreversibly. In love. And he had no idea how to tell her. Or whether she felt the same. Or whether his secret would destroy everything before he had the chance to find out. Jenna carried Sir Sprinkles back to the flower shop, as if she were bringing a wounded soldier home. Martha followed, carrying Romeo and wearing a barely disguised victory smile. Welcome back, Martha said, unlocking the door of Bloom and Breeze. Jenna walked in slowly, as if the place might have changed in her absence. But everything was the same. The shelves of pots, the smell of damp soil, the wind trader spinning on the ceiling with that suspicious tilt she knew was intentional. He still hates me, Jenna murmured, pointing at the fan. It's a fan. It's an enemy disguised as an appliance. Martha rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Rest today. Tomorrow we have real work. The festival is in a week. A week. Jenna felt her stomach tighten, half anxiety, half something that looked dangerously like hope. She placed her sprinkles on the counter, tapped him twice. "We've got this." The spray bottle didn't answer, but it didn't disagree either. 7 days later, the garden had never looked so beautiful, or Connor had never been so nervous. Probably both. He adjusted his tie for the 10th time, watching Jenna coordinate the last details of the festival with the precision of a general and the enthusiasm of someone who had no idea he was completely in love with her. A week working side by side. A week of shared laughter, of hands brushing while planting seedlings, of moments Connor wanted to freeze forever. The garden had transformed. Blooming beds and spirals of color, wooden benches under pergolas covered in wisteria, an improvised stage decorated with sunflowers. The whole town had shown up. Families spread across the lawn, children running between the flowers, the smell of food trucks mingling with the scent of roses. Perfect. Everything was perfect. Which, in Connor's experience, meant something was about to explode. Jenna was arguing with a pair of pruning shears when Martha appeared beside her. "You disappeared again," Jenna was saying to the tool. "I left you on the bench." The bench, not in the middle of the petunias. "Did the shears win this one?" Martha asked, amused. "They always win." Jenna shoved the shears into her apron pocket with more force than necessary. "How's everything looking?" "Wonderful. Connor is a bundle of nerves and Victoria just arrived." Jenna froze. "She what?" Martha pointed toward the entrance. Victoria Hale stood there in a flawless white dress, smiling like she had just bought the place and planned to demolish it. Brooks and Carter followed her like uncomfortable shadows carrying a suspicious box. "I can't believe she had the audacity to show up," Jenna muttered. "She has plenty of audacity, zero decency." Martha crossed her arms. "Good luck keeping your composure." "Thank you for the inspiring confidence." Connor was on the stage, testing the microphone, when Victoria approached with all the subtlety of a parade. "Connor, what a lovely garden." She opened her arms as if she were about to hug him. He stepped back twice. "Victoria, I didn't expect you here." "Of course I would come. I'm a board member. I support community initiatives." She smiled, but her eyes were pure ice. "Where is your assistant?" "Jenna is not my assistant. She's my partner on the project." "How progressive." Victoria tilted her head, studying him. "I hope everything goes well today. You know how outdoor events can be, unpredictable." She walked away before Connor could respond, leaving behind expensive perfume and barely disguised threats. 15 minutes later, the festival was in full swing. Connor stepped onto the stage for the opening speech. Jenna was in the front row with Ellie, who held a sign that said, "My dad is the best," in crooked, perfect letters. Connor took the microphone, took a deep breath, and began. 2 years ago, this place was nothing but abandoned land and weeds. Today, it's a garden, and not because of me, because of every person who showed up, who planted, who believed Charleston deserved something beautiful. The crowd applauded. Jenna smiled, and Connor almost forgot the rest of the speech. That's when Victoria gave the signal. She was in the back, looking at Brooks and Carter with a commanding nod. "Now!" Nothing happened. Connor stopped speaking. The crowd went silent. Victoria, louder and irritated, "Now!" Brooks and Carter exchanged confused looks. Carter pulled a remote control from his pocket and pressed the button. Nothing. Brooks whispered, but the lapel mic he had forgotten to turn off picked up everything. "I think we installed it in the wrong tent." The entire audience heard it. A heavy silence fell, then murmurs. Then Victoria, realizing she had been exposed live. Connor stepped off the stage slowly, microphone still in hand. "Victoria, would you like to explain what device that would be?" Victoria turned pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You don't?" Connor pointed at Brooks and Carter. "They just mentioned an installation. Where?" Carter, trying to help and making everything worse, pointed at the cupcake tent. "There, but it was supposed to be on the stage," except Brooks mixed up left with right. "Stop talking," Victoria shouted. But it was too late. Connor walked to the tent, inspected the structure, and found the device, a simple mechanism to knock down supports. He held it up for everyone to see. Someone tried to sabotage the festival. The crowd erupted in angry murmurs. Victoria tried to run. She turned too quickly, tripped on her own dress, that ridiculously long, expensive fabric, and fell face first into a tray of cupcakes on the donation table. Pink frosting exploded. Sugar confetti flew. Victoria stayed there, on all fours, covered in icing. The crowd went silent for 3 seconds. Then someone laughed. Then another. Then everyone. Jenna covered her mouth, trying not to laugh, but it was impossible. Even Ellie was laughing behind her sign. Brooks tried to help Victoria up, but he stepped on a cupcake, slipped, and knocked over a laptop sitting on the table nearby. The laptop fell, the screen lit up, and it automatically projected on the white wall behind the stage a slideshow. Bold title, Operation Discredit Connor Blake. Slide 1, photo of the garden with a giant red X. Slide 2, list of planned sabotage actions. Slide 3, detailed budget, including inspector bribes and hiring incompetent helpers. Carter looked at the projection, then at Connor, then at Victoria. You saved everything digitally? Brooks, genuinely confused. You asked for a backup? Victoria, still on the ground covered in frosting, shouted, This is not fair. I had a perfect plan. Connor crossed his arms. Was it supposed to be foolproof? It was. Martha appeared next to Connor, holding her phone. I already called the city council. They're on their way. Victoria finally managed to stand, shaking with anger and frosting. You will regret this. I have connections. I have evidence projected on a wall? Jenna suggested, pointing to the slide still showing. Slide 4. Emails exchanged with Brooks and Carter. Slide 5. Suspicious bank transfers. Victoria had no words. 2 council members arrived, took in the scene. Victoria covered in cupcakes, the incriminating presentation, Brooks and Carter looking like they wanted to disappear. And one of them let out a long sigh. Miss Hale, I think you should come with us. Victoria was escorted out, leaving behind a trail of crumbs and destroyed dignity. Before leaving, she turned and yelled, This is not over. Brooks, genuinely confused, whispered to Carter, She knows we're terrible at this, right? When the dust and the frosting settled, Connor went back to the stage. The crowd was thrilled, clapping and cheering. He grabbed the microphone. Well, that was unexpected. Laughter. But the garden is still here, and all of you are too, so let's keep going. More applause. The music started again. The kids went back to running around. The festival continued, as if Victoria Hale had never existed. Jenna walked toward the stage. Connor stepped down, and they ended up face to face. Are you okay? She asked. I am. You? Better now that Victoria is covered in frosting. Connor laughed. That sound Jenna loved without realizing she loved it. Ellie came running, jumping between them. That was amazing. She fell on the cupcake. It was poetic justice, Martha said, appearing with Sir Sprinkles, which Jenna had left somewhere and Martha had rescued. Here, you'll need him. Jenna took the spray bottle, holding it to her chest. Thank you for not abandoning me, Sir Sprinkles. Connor watched, smiling. You really talked to him. He's a great listener. Better than I am? Jenna tilted her head. That depends. Can you keep secrets? Connor grew serious, because he had one. A big one, a heavy one, and it was time to tell her. But before he could speak, Ellie grabbed his hand. Dad, come! There's a giant dog near the sunflowers. And Connor was pulled away, leaving Jenna with Sir Sprinkles and a strange feeling that something important was about to happen. She looked toward the stage, where a banner was being unrolled for the official ceremony. The letters were still covered, but she could see the outline of the words. Amelia Blake Garden. Jenna felt her chest tighten. Amelia, Connor's wife, the woman who had started all of this. And suddenly, Jenna realized she barely knew anything about Connor, except that he was kind, dedicated, and carried a sadness he hid behind smiles. She held Sir Sprinkles a little closer. I think he has more secrets than I imagined. The spray bottle didn't answer. But the windy trader, up on the cupcake booth ceiling, turned with a creak that sounded suspiciously like agreement. Jenna was still feeling the weight of that unspoken sentence when Connor's father appeared. She blinked, confused. That elegant man, gray hair perfectly combed, suit that was probably tailored by hand, was walking toward Connor with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Dad? Connor tensed immediately. What are you doing here? Can I come show support at my son's event? The man opened his arms, but Connor didn't move to hug him. Jenna felt the shift in the air. Martha, beside her, murmured, This is going to be interesting. Before anyone could say anything else, the microphone on the small stage screeched loudly. The ceremony was starting, and that industrial fan beside the podium, Jenna knew that metallic, treacherous look. The festival had turned into something bigger than anyone expected. Hundreds of people spread across the lawn, children running between the flower beds, the smell of flowers mixed with cotton candy and popcorn. The afternoon sun made everything golden, as if all of Charleston had decided that this garden deserved to be celebrated. Martha stepped onto the stage first, adjusting the microphone with the efficiency of someone who had done it 1,000 times. "Good afternoon, Charleston." Her voice echoed through the speakers. The crowd cheered. "Today we officially open the community garden this city has deserved for years, and we have a special name for it." Jenna saw Connor grow even more tense. He hadn't revealed the name yet, not even to her. Martha continued, "This garden will be called the Amelia Blake Garden, in honor of the woman who dedicated her life to making Charleston greener, more beautiful, more alive." The silence that followed was different, respectful, moving. Connor closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were shining. Ellie squeezed his hand. "Mom would love it, right?" "She would." His voice was rough. "She would love all of this." Jenna felt her chest tighten. She placed her hand on his shoulder, just a touch, but Connor covered her hand with his, and they stayed like that for 3 heartbeats before Ellie pulled them toward the stage. Connor's father watched everything with an unreadable expression. The ribbon was stretched across the main entrance of the garden, bright red against the green beds. Martha handed the scissors to Ellie, a pair of pruning shears. "Pink." Jenna's eyes widened. "Wait, those are yours." Martha smiled. Ellie asked to borrow them. Ellie held the shears with both hands, as serious as if she were holding Excalibur. "Ready?" Connor knelt beside her. "Ready." They cut it together. The ribbon fell. The crowd burst into applause and cheers. Jenna clapped too, laughing, and that was when she realized she was crying. Happy, ridiculous tears running down her face as she watched Connor hug his daughter, as she watched the garden, their garden, finally real, finally alive. Martha appeared beside her, offering a tissue. "You're part of this too, you know. I just planted a few flowers. You planted hope." Martha patted her arm. "And you made Connor smile again. That's worth more than any flower bed." Before Jenna could answer, Connor walked back onto the stage, pulling Ellie with him. The microphone squeaked again. "Thank you all for coming," Connor began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "This garden would not exist without every person who showed up, who planted, who believed. Especially." He looked directly at Jenna. "Especially my partner, Jenna Reeves, who turned dirt into life and reminded me that there is still beauty in the world." The crowd applauded. Jenna turned bright red. Her sprinkle sat in her apron pocket, and she squeezed the spray bottle like it was a lucky charm. That was when the fan turned on. Jenna saw the movement before she heard the sound. Those industrial blades spinning faster and faster, and she knew that kind of evil energy. "I know you," she pointed at the fan. "You're related to the traitor." Connor, confused. "Jenna, it's just a fan." At that moment, the fan hit full power. The decorative petals scattered across the stage, hundreds of them, pink and white and yellow, lifted into the air like a floral cyclone, straight at Jenna. She closed her eyes, accepted her fate. When she opened them, she was covered. Completely. Petals in her hair, on her face, stuck to her apron, inside her mouth. The crowd fell silent. Jenna spat out a petal, then another. She squinted at the fan. "You communicate with each other. I knew it." 3 seconds of complete silence, then someone laughed, then another. Then the entire crowd burst into laughter, with her, not at her. Children pointed, adults held their stomachs, even Martha was doubled over. Ellie ran onto the stage, brushing petals out of Jenna's hair. "You're the funniest person I know." Jenna smiled, still spitting petals. "Thank you?" Connor stood there watching. And something changed in his expression. Something Jenna couldn't name, but it made her stomach flip. Ellie tugged on his sleeve. "Dad, you look silly." "I know. Are you going to talk to her, or do I have to do everything?" Connor blinked, returning to reality. He looked at Jenna, covered in petals, laughing at herself, making hundreds of people laugh with her. And he finally understood. He didn't just want to fix the garden. He didn't just want a partner for the project. He wanted this chaos, this light, forever. "Dad?" Ellie nudged him again. Connor took a deep breath. walked onto the stage, took the microphone. His heart was racing, but the words were clear in his mind. The crowd slowly quieted, sensing something was happening. Jenna, still covered in petals, whispered to Sir Sprinkles, "This can't be good." Connor adjusted the microphone, looked at her. Only her. "Jenna." She froze. "I need to tell you something." The entire garden held its breath, and Connor, for the first time in 2 years, let his heart speak louder than his fear. Jenna's hand was still raised, frozen in midair, when Martha stepped back from the stage with a mysterious smile. The red ribbon had just been cut. The garden was officially open. And Connor was looking at her in a way that made her stomach turn over. He hadn't put the microphone down. "Everyone," his voice echoed through the speakers. "Before we move on to the food, which I know is what everyone is waiting for," laughter from the crowd, "I need to say something." Jenna frowned. Ellie beside her wore a huge, suspicious grin. Connor took a deep breath. "I had a beautiful speech prepared about sustainability, about my mother's legacy, about how plants can transform entire communities." He ran a hand through his hair, that nervous gesture Jenna knew so well. "But all I can think about right now is that, 2 years ago, I thought I would never smile again, that the world had lost its color, that gardens were only reminders of loss." The crowd fell silent. Jenna felt tears burn her eyes. Connor stepped off the stage. Every step he took toward her made Jenna's heart beat faster. Then a completely unreasonable woman showed up, arguing with a ceiling fan. He stopped in front of her, and suddenly, everything made sense again. The garden was so quiet Jenna could hear her own heartbeat stumbling inside her chest. "Jenna Reeves," Connor took her hands. "You are a walking disaster. You argue with inanimate objects. You trip over your own feet. You have a spray bottle that has clearly conspired against me since the first day." Jenna laughed through her tears. "Wait, is that a compliment?" "It's the absolute truth." His eyes shone. "And the truth is that I don't want another day without this wonderful chaos." He let go of one of her hands and reached into his pocket with the other. When he pulled out the small box, Jenna forgot how to breathe. Connor knelt. "Marry me?" That was when Sir Sprinkles decided to attack. The spray bottle, still in the pocket of Jenna's apron, chose that exact moment to fire, a perfect stream of water straight into Connor's eye. Connor blinked rapidly, trying to wipe his face with his sleeve while still holding the open box. "Is that a yes?" he asked, voice shaky, one eye closed. Jenna burst into laughter and tears at the same time. "Yes, 1,000 times yes!" She threw herself into his arms with such force that she almost knocked him backward. Connor managed to keep his balance at the last second, laughing into her hair as the crowd exploded in cheers and whistles. Ellie came running, jumping onto both of them. "I'm going to have a mom who argues with things." "The best quality a mother can have," Martha shouted from the side, wiping her own eyes. Connor finally slipped the ring onto Jenna's finger. A delicate ring with tiny flowers engraved along the silver band. She looked at it, then at Ellie, then at the garden around her, and felt that she had finally found where she belonged. "You know Sir Sprinkles is officially your problem now, right?" Jenna whispered against his shoulder. Connor pulled her closer. "I accept all terms and conditions." 3 months later, the Amelia Blake garden was unrecognizable. Arches of white and pink flowers framed the main path. Light wooden chairs stood in perfect rows. The afternoon sun cast gold over every petal, every leaf, every excited face in the crowd. Jenna was in the small gazebo set up as a dressing room, staring at the mirror. The dress was simple and elegant, exactly what she wanted. The veil, however, had other ideas. A gust of wind, from nowhere of course, snatched the veil from her head. Jenna watched, open-mouthed, as the fabric flew like a rebellious flag toward the rose beds. "No, you don't!" She lifted her dress and ran after it. The veil rose higher. Jenna jumped, missed by inches. The veil landed gracefully on a bush. She approached slowly, as if dealing with a frightened animal. She reached out carefully. The veil lifted off again. "I swear I'm going to catch you!" Jenna shouted, tripping over an exposed root and falling to her knees in the soft grass. Martha appeared out of nowhere, caught the veil midair with ninja reflexes, and handed it to Jenna, who was still kneeling on the ground. "Your mother-in-law would have done the exact same thing," Martha said with a warm smile. Jenna took the offered hand and stood, fastening the veil firmly this time. Thank you for saving me. Again. You're welcome, dear. Martha straightened her dress. Now take a deep breath. You're going to need the energy. The wedding march began to play. Jenna walked down the flower-lined aisle, her arm linked with her father's. He had come from New York just for the day. Connor waited at the simple altar, Ellie beside him holding a small bouquet of daisies. But Jenna stopped halfway, because next to the altar on a small decorative table covered with lace was a little portable fan. She narrowed her eyes. The fan remained still and innocent. Connor followed her gaze and smiled that mischievous smile. Jenna approached with caution, looked at the fan, reached out slowly. Truce? The fan did not turn on. Jenna nodded, solemn as if signing a peace treaty. Finally, mutual respect achieved. The guest chuckled softly. Her father squeezed her arm with affection. Jenna continued to the altar, where Connor waited with a smile that still made her stomach flip. The officiant began the ceremony, but Jenna barely heard the words. She was lost in Connor's eyes, in Ellie's small hand holding hers, in the sweet scent of the flowers around them. "The vows?" the officiant asked. Connor took a breath. "I promise to laugh at all your disasters, help with some of them, and cause others on purpose." Jenna smiled. "I promise not to blame the fan when it's really my fault, at least sometimes." Laughter spread everywhere. From the back of the garden came the loud crash of a tray hitting the ground. Everyone turned. Brooks and Carter, dressed in perfect waiter uniforms, stared at the broken glasses at their feet with absolute despair. "We're better at corporate sabotage," Brooks murmured. Carter let out a long sigh. "Technically, we're terrible at that too." Martha shook her head, but she was smiling. The officiant raised his hands. "Then, by the power vested in me by the state of South Carolina, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Connor pulled Jenna close, and when their lips met, petals began to fall from above, gently, on purpose this time, scattered by Ellie with slightly excessive enthusiasm. A few hit unsuspecting guests. No one complained. Later, as the sun began to set and the fairy lights lit up around the entire garden, Jenna and Connor walked hand in hand through the flower beds. Ellie bounced between them, hopping from stone to stone along the path. Jenna looked back and saw Sir Sprinkles tucked into Martha's apron pocket as she chatted animatedly with a group of guests. "Take good care of him," Jenna called. "He's very sensitive." Martha lifted the spray bottle like a toast. "I know, he already told me all his secrets." Jenna laughed and turned back toward the path. The flowers swayed in the gentle night breeze. The sky was painted in orange, pink, and violet. "You know," she said, stopping to look at Connor and Ellie, "I spent my whole life thinking the universe was against me. The fans, the shopping carts, the spray bottles, everything seemed determined to embarrass me in public." She squeezed Connor's hand. "But maybe the universe was just pushing me, toward the right place, toward the right people." Connor pulled her a little closer. "Or maybe you're just terrible with objects." Jenna pretended to be offended. "That possibility also exists." They laughed, and the sound echoed through the garden, a garden born from pain, grown with hope, and blooming with real love. Ellie pointed at the darkening sky. "Look, the first star of the night." Jenna looked up, then at Connor, then at the little girl who was now officially her daughter, and she knew with absolute certainty that she had found her happy ending. Even if Sir Sprinkles still disagreed from time to time. And so, when Jenna left the garden that night, still hearing Ellie's giggles echoing through the newly planted flowers, she realized her life had changed in a way she couldn't quite explain. Something there was blooming. And it wasn't just the garden. Now tell me something. What did you think of Jenna, Connor, and little Ellie's journey so far? Share your thoughts in the comments. I love reading every single one. And before you go, answer this too. On a scale of 0 to 10, what rating would you give this story? If you're not subscribed yet, take a moment to subscribe and click the bell. That way, you'll get more emotional, fun, twist-filled stories just like this one. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next story.